Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to another CranKy Duckling broadcast, to our very first broadcast of the GSL of the 2023 Season 2 of GSL, the Round of 16 Group A. I'm, of course, your host, Light VIP, and with me, I'm joined... God damn it. I'm currently joined by my lovely and my beautiful plushies. That will change soon. I had to change that at some point. My mistake. But yes, welcome. This isn't our first time casting the GSL. We have casted the qualifiers in the past. We casted the qualifiers over on Africa, on our Africa channel, of course. But we have yet to cast the main season. Fun fact, we were actually going to do it last season, season one of this year. We were going to cast it, but we never found the time. Like, our schedule was so busy and we could just never squeeze in a cast to actually cover this tournament, so we ended up missing out. We missed out on that first season, but here we are with season 2. Of course, it's a replay cast. These events did occur last week, so again, if you already watched this, then you already know what happens. No spoilers in the chats. Of course, if you did not come across these matches, then we got you covered. Oh boy, as we have Group A before us. As we switch our scenes over, and you can have a look at the group yourself. GSR, it's not round robin. We've been casting a lot of round robin groups recently. But here we are with a GSL group format instead. Of course, both initial matches will play off, then we'll have the winners match, then we'll have the elimination match, and then the decider match at the end of the night. As you can see here, we're going to be featuring players such as Maru, TY, Bunny, and Classic. And we were lucky enough to actually cast TY in the qualifiers of GSL. Again, that was around a month ago at this point. It was really exciting to see TY come back to the game and actually look strong and actually look somewhat in form. I don't know if I would go as far as to say that he's looking like he did in the years past when he was a more active player before his retirement or before he stepped away, but he was still really impressing us. He really did impress us. I remember I was casting those matches with Asher at the time, and we actually casted TY versus Classic. Fun fact. No long macro games. We saw some very crisp timings out of TY. Very crisp indeed, and he was able to catch Classic with his pants down, and he did advance into the GSL over Classic. So maybe a bit of a grudge match, maybe later on. They happen to be in the same group. They happen to be here with each other. So that's interesting, to say the least. So there's a little bit of history behind them. Meanwhile, the other player, the returning player, is Bunny, of course. Very exciting to see Bunny this season, especially considering that he... I assumed he retired. I assumed he stepped away from the game. I assumed he was not going to be competing anymore, just because he hasn't been competing. He just hasn't been around. He hasn't been in ESL Open Cups or the KSL or the Kung Fu Cup. He isn't on a WTL team, so we just haven't seen Bunny play. So I just assumed he faded into obscurity. I was afraid he pulled a Patience. Patience did the same thing, where Patience, he didn't even announce a retirement. He just stopped showing up and he just disappeared. So I was really concerned, because I'm a big fan of Bunny, massive fan of Bunny from back in the day, from back in the Pro League days, back when he was on CJ Entus. He was teammates with Hero, Bunny, Ragnarok, Young as well. They were all together, all forming CJ, and yeah, I was a big fan, definitely a big fan back in the day. And even in current era of StarCraft, I was a big fan as well. So it was sad to see Bunny kind of take a bit of a step back from the game and not be as active. Clearly still looking to compete, clearly still here in GSL, so I'm excited for that at least. So at least we get to see some Bunny here in 2023, at least a little bit more Bunny at least. So yeah, exciting stuff, definitely exciting stuff. If you're a fan of Zerg, I apologize. I do apologize. No Zergs in this group today, just Terrans and one lone Protoss. Best of luck to Classic. I hope he has been shoring up his PvT, and to be fair, he has some really solid versus Terran. We have been bearing witness to that over the past couple of weeks. Oh boy. But GSL is a little bit different. This is a more prepared team league format. Because it's so prepared, like it's a little bit different. It's different to your average weekly tournaments. It's different to like IEM Katowice or your weekend events as well, just because you have like week, if not weeks ahead of time to prepare specifically for your matchup and your opponent as well. So there's a lot of studying that comes into play. There's a reason why, like, for example, last year or the year before, when Rainer showed up to GSL, he got bopped like straight away. It's like a very different format, very different style of tournament. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun as a result. Oh, but here we go. We are diving into game number 1 between Maru and TY. Our first of many, well, potentially of many TvTs. We'll see. Let's go, Bobby. Let's go. I, of course, brought him up earlier, but TY has made his return. Taeyang himself, the sensei, the senpai of Juanito back in the day. One of the best Terran players in the world. Oh, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. Let's go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Altitude, we have the South Korean Terran player representing Onside Gaming. It is Maru. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It's the returning player, the returning ex-military Terran. It is TY. Oh, I need an alias. Oh god, but I am ready. I am excited. Again, we haven't been able to see too much of TY recently. We have been lucky enough to cast him in some KSLs and some Kung Fu Cups. Same with innovation, same with stats. The problem with those matches, though, I remember talking to Asher about it recently, is that whenever we cast a TY or innovation or stats recently, like, they get bopped pretty hard. But, like, it's not their fault because they're going up against, like, Dark or Hero, you know, or Byun. Like, they're going up against, like, current best of the best players in Korea, and they're still, like, finding their footing sort of thing. So it's like, how much can we really, like, judge from these matches, and how much can we really learn from this, when there's just, like, so much stacked against them. So yeah, it's it is something to bear in mind. So yeah, that's why leading into this, I'm coming into this like with more of a fresh mind, of course. Already we have double gas openers here from TY, so he's going to be going for something more aggressive. We see Maru going for a single gas opener into a 2-Rax. This is designed to hard counter something like a proxy Rax. So Maru's playing this out very safe, and if TY had attempted to cheese Maru, then TY would be completely shut down. So thankfully that's not the case, and Maru does confirm that with an SCV scout. I love that Maru also SCV scouted as well. It's something that he doesn't do too often, so it does of course show that he's, you know, respecting his opponents quite a bit. So I much love there, much love to see him go for a safer opener like this. Of course, you can still be aggressive with this. Now he has, of course, 2 Reapers. He will have the Reaper advantage compared to TY, and Maru can be active on the map. Meanwhile, we can see TY checking for proxies himself. It is a Korean TvT, so again, it makes sense. Definitely does make sense for the players to be a little bit on edge. Regarding that. As we are going to be just transitioning out of this, CC on the low ground for both players. Gases are underway. Of course, TY, because of the faster gases, he has a faster factory, so he's already being active here with his initial Hellion, with his Reapers. He can be assertive on the map. For the time being, though, both players are waiting for the other to show up with that high ground advantage. Talking a little bit about the map itself, we are, of course, loading into Altitude, largest map in the map pool. Now, does this lead to, like, longer macro games? It can, definitely. It can definitely do so, but the defender's advantage on this map isn't as large as some of the others, like Gressvan, for example. Or even Ancient Cistern, especially near Humanity. So because of that, it's very frequent for players to be out of position because it's so large, because these bases are so spread out. It can lead to more chaotic games. especially when we're talking about two very active Terran players, specifically Maru, for example. I know he is cut from a similar cloth of Bjorn. Bjorn is very bio heavy, and we can see that here. We have the beginnings of a 2-1-1 setup. We have very fast stim on the way from Maru. It's very unorthodox to go for this in TvT, just because you're delaying your tank production, you're delaying your Raven production as well. We talk about this a lot whenever we're casting Bjorn, but it is a little bit of a risky move, but a really fun move as well. Oof. As the first Reaper is going to be shut down. Did TY see that, by the way? He did see the Tech Lab researching on the starport, sorry, on the barracks, so he should be aware, of course, that his opponent's going to be very bio-heavy early on. TY is setting up for a bit of a mine and a Hellion jump head towards the main base. Oh boy. And he's going to be able to slip on by. We do see Maru scouting across the map. He does have a Cyclone back at home, but he's not quite reacting in time. Oh god! Oof. Solid mine shot goes off. 4 SCVs will go down, and we're going to have to escape here. We get a lock on the medevac, and it looks like the medevac barely does escape. Was that worth it? I mean, because the medevac made it out, it's not too bad. Also, we did get a full scout in the main base. We got confirmation of the 2-1-1. So TY should be aware that Maru is going to be pumping out medevacs momentarily and should be coming across the map soon. And again, at least the medevac did survive. So we only lost, you know, some Reapers, some Hellions, the mine as well. A very inexpensive loss for TY. But we are setting up for that add-on stop. There we go. 2 medevacs are going to be on the way. So it is the classic 2-1-1 setup here from Maru. TY already has tanks. He already has 2 tanks. Continue to be in production. He's got a 3rd CC. Very fast 3rd CC here from TY. Very economic. Maru, to try to catch up, he's going for a CC on the low ground instead. As Maru, with that Reaper scout, he did confirm the timing of the 3rd of TY. So he knows that he's safe to do so as well. He knows that TY is expanding, is focusing on more or less macro defensive play. Banshee on the way for TY. Very cute move here. Again, this is something that some of the Korean Terrans do. They love to mix in. The Banshees are so unexpected at this stage of the game, but the Reaper, will not scout it. The Reaper sees the production, but doesn't see the Tech Lab researching on that starport. For all he knows, that's another Raven on the way. Meanwhile, here we go. The double drop is going to be zooming across the map. Now, there's a lot of onus on this drop. Maru, he delayed Raven production, he delayed tank production to make this drop work, to move out on the map with this army. We can see TY did accurately recognize what the production was, what the build was, and he's getting ready to defend in his main, and even soon to be his natural as well. I love the SimCity here. So he is ready for a drop. Maru is, as TY moves out with the medevac, and the medevac gets caught out. A very nice pick off there by Maru. We see a scan into the main, just confirming the production, confirming now tank production on the way. I also appreciate that Maru, even though he killed the medevac on the left-hand side, his drop is actually set up here on the right instead. There is a tank sieged up. TY is moving out to establish that 3rd base. This Cyclone is going to spot that, and if the Cyclone sees the army move in, then that will be a signal for Maru to go for the drop. You can see the Cyclone trying to distract TY, trying to pull him out of position. TY does pull back instead. At the same time, that Cloak Banshee does slip in and is going to get quite a number of kills. 3 SCVs so far and maybe a Marine. Not a lot of damage, but, you know, we can maybe get a little bit more. But here we go. The double drop does go in. And how much can we get done? We're going to be able to get 1 SCV for a Marine as we drop into the main base as well. But again, TY was so prepared for this. Minimal losses across the map. The Banshee goes down, gets 6 SCVs. A solid start here from TY. I say that, but we do see Maru dive on top of that tank. The friendly fire takes down the tank. Good value here. Trading Marines for tanks, always a good thing for Maru, especially considering that he has an abundance of Marines to work with. Only minerals. As he does flirt with the idea of coming back in, bearing in mind that the tank hasn't been replaced here in the production line. Also, Maru, he dips back in. He's going to get a couple more SCVs at the same time. The main push is coming across the map. And so far, it's skirting around the edge of that sensor tower. TY, he doesn't know. He's in position, don't get me wrong. But the Bio Army needs to rotate around as well. We have a lot. Oh my god, he's actually making non-stop Ravens. I didn't even notice. I assumed he would only make like 2, but he is not stopping. He's playing mech. He's playing Banshee mech. But like tank Banshee, what's happening? As we do go for a massive drop into the main base, and oh, we focus down the tanks. Both tanks will go down. Maru does establish himself here behind the mineral line. Well, we do have a disable, but Maru, he does unsiege just in time. Oh, and Maru's trading so well with this army. Eventually he's gonna get cleaned up, but by the time that happens, like again, this already did so much. 6 SCVs went down. We got a lot of tanks. And the drop play just doesn't stop as Maru dives on top of the tank of the natural ace as well, takes that down, and TY is being pulled apart again. He has a very slow army. It isn't battle mech, like he's still just making tanks, so it's very immobile. His 21 SCVs have gone down. This was such a good start for TY. It was such a good start. But alas, once the drop play came in from Maru, TY is being pulled apart. Oof, once again, the friendly fire from those tanks takes down another. The medevacs all survive. How? All the medevacs make it out, and Maru is not done with the drop play. He's just been pumping out Marines, medevacs constantly throughout this game, squeezing out as much value as little he has. Just here disabled, but oh, we unsiege just in time. For those wondering, when you get disabled, you can't do anything. You can't unsiege, you can't move, you can't sorry. No, you can't move, but you can't unsiege. You can't activate your abilities. But Maru did unsiege just before the disable hit. Managed to pick it up, save that last tank. Triple drop into the main base, and again, TY is having a hard time keeping up. He's pumping out a lot of these Hellions. He's got Hyperflight Rotors on the way, which will help these Banshees keep up with the drops, but we barely have any Banshees left. We've been losing them time and time again. 4 Banshees have already gone down. Only one of them was harassing across the map. Maru, just the tempo that he's set is insane. TY is trying to establish a 4th base. He's trying to recover. Unfortunately, a little bit supply blocked. We have 5 depots on the way. The tanks are... He's trying to rebuild, trying to replace whatever he can. Goes for a scan, confirms that he's behind in the base count. Meanwhile, this time, the drop play has ended. This is a pretty dedicated push this time out of Maru. He's got Marines, Marauders, tanks. All those medevacs that survived went back home. They were repaired. Most of them anyway, and... Oh, this CC, it's gonna go down. Not like this, but at the same time, we can have a drop into the natural base as well, just distracting the forces of TY, threatening the production line, forcing TY to respond to the drop, and that does mean that the CC will burn down. Oof. And a massive loss for TY. He's at least looking fairly solid on 3 bases, but again, because so many tanks have gone down throughout this game, medevacs get shut down. There's still like gaps here in the armor of TY, gaps that Maru has been able to exploit. Even here, we actually don't really have any anti-air. We have a handful of vanilla Marines, and that's it. That's why these medevacs have been surviving. Like, we don't have Vikings, we don't have Cyclones, no Thors, no nothing. Like, how can we deal with the drop play? We can't. It's so peculiar. Oh my god. As we dive into the main, anti-armor missile is gonna blanket these medevacs, but again, there's just no way to deal with them. There's nothing that shoots up. And I say really peculiar because as we do dive back in, bearing in mind that the anti-armor missile only covered the medevacs, it did not touch any of the ground army. Oof. TY's being pinned back at home. But like, so typically when you play mech in TvT, it's a Viking tank, right? It's tanks on the low ground with some Hellions to support, and you have Vikings in the air. And the Vikings, they give you air superiority. They shut down the Vikings and Ravens of your opponent. They shut down the medevacs as well. Outside of that, you would go like battle mech, right? And your anti-air would be Cyclones. But TY is going for like his own variation here, tank Hellion Banshee instead. It's so interesting, and I mean, because of that, he has so much anti-ground DPS. The Banshees actually do pack quite a punch, but he's being abused because he has no anti-air. Like, Maru has identified the weakness here of TY's build, of his army composition. He just dives on top of the army, catches some of these tanks, a lot of them unsieged as well. And even if Maru loses all of his Marines and Marauders, like, that was such an efficient trade. He killed 5 tanks. But finally, Vikings are in production. but by this point, the damage has been done. I mean, TY, he's getting another base up and running, to be fair. Like, he's quote-unquote keeping up in the supply. But the tank count has just never been able to hit critical mass, and we have so many Marauders. Oh my god. Likewise, Maru, now getting into his own Viking production, is able to surpass the Viking count of his opponent. Shout out to these Marines. These Marines have been alive the entire game. since the very beginning. They've been there, helping, doing what they can. As TY is finally getting his 4th and now a 5th base up and running as he double expands. It doesn't quite have the worker count that he would like. That's still something that he's, building up, but at least when it comes to the bases, he's getting there. We can see the sensor towers are being thrown down. Tanks are spread thin. We can see that this base on the left-hand side is very exposed. Only one tank is within range to protect this planetary. But TY, he's gambling a little bit, hoping that he's able to keep up with the army movement with as little he has. I say that, he does max out. Maru transitioning into BCs. Oh, let's go. As he's going to threaten this base, and I mean, speaking of lack of anti-air, again, Maru recognizes, hey, you know what? I've got the Viking lead. If even just a handful of BCs would just win me the game. And you know what? Maru's not wrong. If he, there we go. We have a scan. The first BC has been spotted. What does TY do? Hatches some of these Marauders, but again, he just doesn't have the ideal army to face off against this. Yamato still isn't done, to be fair. Oh, a lot of tank volleys will go off. But the Vikings here for Maru, they reign supreme. The BCs just rain down on the tanks. It's like I'm watching like a ZVZ when mutas show up and like we just have roaches. Where the BC can just kill everything. And because Maru has the Viking lead, TY, he can't catch up. He has to make mines, yeah. He has to make mines or Thors. He has to make something else here to support his army, but everything is going down. Cyclones, the mines are trying to stand strong. TY just going into whatever anti-air he can. The BCs teleport back home, they survive. And TY is able to hold the line at least. He's able to preserve his bases and his SCV count. But once again, a really efficient trade from Maru. And Maru, he's just pumping out more BCs. We have the second starports, third starport even. Yamato this time is done. He's just sending his SCVs over to, I imagine, repair. And once he is topped up, he's ready to go in once again. Meanwhile, TY just frantically making everything that shoots up that he can. Cyclones, Mines, Vikings. Whatever he can to stop the BCs. But they're BCs, like, that's kind of like the late game TvT unit that you want. If you can make it there, if you can get there, and Maru did. The BCs have arrived. Now, I like the idea of maybe TY trying to avoid that main army. We can see him skirting around the edge of the map. Does take control of the Zonaga. Maru sees this. He's rotating as well to keep up. Now, this is a world where if these mine shots go up... Speaking of... we have a massive anti-armor missile. The mines are not in position against the BCs, and the Cyclones get Yamato'd. The tanks go down. The mines are doing what they can, and they take down a lot of those Vikings, but still a very dominant fight in favor of Maru. GG gets called, and Maru will take game number 1. GG. The hell did we just watch? Oh my god. Wow, GG, well played. Maru does take a lead in that series. TY with a very interesting style of mech in TvT that I'm not too familiar with, I'll be honest. Haven't seen too many other Terrans quite play it out like that. I have seen, of course, Banshee play in TvT, but to commit that hard to it is, yeah. I want to see more. I want to see more. Unfortunately, again, Maru, he was able to take full advantage of TY in such a fashion, the constant drop play, and eventually, of course, transitioning into Vikings, transitioning into BCs. The entire time, the entire game, outside of that one Banshee and the initial drop, TY was stuck at home. He was stuck at home barely holding on, barely defending his bases, struggling to keep up with Maru, and because he was stuck at home for so long, this gave so much freedom to Maru to expand, to tech up, to get into those battle cruisers. GG. Oh, damn. Well played. And with that, we're going to be getting into game 2. Game number 2, and I don't know what to expect anymore. It's going to be taking place on Gresvan. Let's go. Here we go. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner. Don't worry about it, babyling. Don't worry about it. Spawning in the bottom right hand corner of Gresvan, we have the South Korean Terran player representing Onside Gaming, currently leading the series 1-0. It is Maru. And spawning in the top left hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the ex-military Terran player representing the Kwangdong Freaks. It is TY. And I know I've been harping a lot about how Maru was able to abuse the army composition of TY and how dominant Maru was, especially in the mid to late game. What I will say is that the early game of TY was better. If you recall, TY was accurately able to identify, of course, the 2-1-1 of Maru. He was able to get a decent amount of SCV and economic damage early on as well. And he shut down the initial push. He shut down the initial drop play of Maru. It was just over time, Maru did pull TY apart, and once additional medvacs hit the field, once we were hitting at 2 places at once, that's kind of when TY was falling apart. You know, it isn't all just up to his reaction time, but also about his army composition as well. Just having a hard time keeping up. His army itself was that much more immobile compared to Maru. And once again, Maru goes for the same opener. He goes for another 2 racks. Very safe play out of Maru. I mentioned this earlier, but once again, typically you go for this to hard counter a proxy 2 racks from your opponent. And proxies are very common in Korean TvT, so Maru just playing this out very safe. Of course, he's going to have, you know, a bit of a higher Reaper count that he can work with, but for the most part, he is just making sure that he doesn't get cheesed out and doesn't die prematurely. Meanwhile, TY is going for a double gas opener, so just like the previous game, he's going to have a faster factory, he's going to have a faster Hellion, can have a faster presence on the map. We get into this game. I'm curious as well if TY is going to go for mech once again. I do feel like mech is maybe a little bit better on Gresvan compared to altitude. The problem with altitude is it is very wide open. It's very spread out. It's very difficult to bounce between your fringe bases and defend them. Compared to Gresvan, Gresvan I would say is a little bit easier. The bases are a little bit more consolidated. They're a little bit more brought together. And with that, I do think that TY could have a little bit more success, especially if he experiments a little bit more with his overall army composition. As once again, we do have the initial Reaper, the Hellion. We do have Widowmine on the way. Oh, let's go. Oh, hello. Chat's catching up. Hello, Poppy. Hello. So we are getting into our 1-on-1. Likewise, across the map, we do have our naturals on the way. And just like that previous game, this is kind of a mirrored build from both players, to be fair. Maru is going for another 2-on-1. Let's go. I love this. Players like Maru, players like Byun, I guess I should reiterate to maybe some other Terrans in the chat. 2-on-1 is very uncommon in TvT, and you need to have the APM, you need to have the multitasking to really make it work. Otherwise, it's not really worth it. Otherwise, it's not quite worth it, as we actually have an add-on switch. Never mind. Okay. So we're going to be going for a Cyclone first, and Maru's going to be prioritizing that. Because of that, he's going to be delaying his stim a little bit more as well. So this is indeed a different setup from Maru. But yeah, as we mentioned earlier, like when you go for this kind of opener, it does delay your overall tank production, delays your Raven production, which is typically the bread and butter of TvT. Oh, as the first Reaper of Maru does make it across the map, and an SCV goes down. not too bad. Maru was also able to get a scout of the main base, able to confirm at least the initial tank coming out. But not too much more from there. Meanwhile, yeah, we do have much faster tank production from Maru. Likewise, just like game 1, we do have that Widowmine drop coming in from TY. Oh, but we have a scan, and the Widowmine does get targeted down. Very nicely done by Maru. This time he will not lose those SCVs. And Maru's even going for a faster Viking as well. Here we go. They're much faster tank production, even working on that Viking. So Maru isn't rushing into stim like he did previously, and he's not going for a drop play. So Maru is going for a more traditional TvT. Oh, as the Cyclone is looking to hunt down this drop, and we're getting quite a lot of units, so the Viking is going to pin this back as well. Maru just shutting this down so hard. We do have a couple of reinforcements coming in from TY. He wants to preserve this medevac, preserve the Liberator, but up, can he? Oh my god. Just barely he can. The Marines make it back just in time. Look how low these units are, but TY does save them. He does preserve them. He will make it back home. Whew. Saving Private Liberator. We made it. Oh, TY is so bold. Oh, okay, never mind. I was like, he's crazy. He's not going back home. Well, instead, he sent some SCVs across the map to repair. To see a scan into the main base, getting an eye on the production. Ooh, and TY is going for a 2-base all-in. He's going for a second starport, so he's going for a massive Viking tank. The Vikings, of course, take control of the skies, and the tanks are able to leapfrog forward. Maru was not able to see that second starport. He hasn't seen it here at the natural. He is unawares. Instead, he went for a faster 3rd CC, so a much more economic follow-up here from Maru. As a result, he's going to be in trouble. As we see a scan, and we do get eyes on the additional Raxes. So typically, if you recognize what TY is doing, then Maru would be throwing down a second starport to keep up with the Viking production. The reason why Vikings are so important is because it gives free reign to this Liberator. Assuming that it doesn't go down to the Cyclone. The Vikings, they take control of the sky, and then you can just bully the tanks back. Now, already, Maru is going to be on sieging. He is looking to potentially back off. Has to be very careful with that Raven as well. Doesn't want to lose it. Oh, lock on the Liberator, and Maru, oh my god, just barely doesn't get it. The Liberator does survive. Oh my god. TY taking a lot of hits, trying to push up this ramp. But Maru's positioning is just so good. You can see the Vikings trying to bully back that Raven, but the Raven does survive as well. TY just rallying everything he has across the map again. His goal here is to break Maru here and now. Oh, what is... what? I don't... What is that black box? Okay, as we just see the Vikings just dancing with each other, I'll try and fix that momentarily. We're censoring the production, Papi. We're censoring the production. As the Vikings are trying to push on forward, the tanks leave running forward as well. It looks like TY has made his way up that ramp. We do see Maru pulling the boys. But the disables are connecting, actually, and with these SCVs, it looks like Maru, he's going to be able to break on through. Somehow, some way, the Raven thread the needle, made its way past all those Vikings. The Liberator not helping at all. GG gets called. And Maru shuts down the push so hard. Takes game number 2 and the series. GG. GG, well played. Again, I apologize for that black box. I have no idea what that was, and why it was there. Huh? It's weird. I don't know. I'm checking and it's not there anymore. But yeah, regardless, GG, well played. Maru completely shutting TY down in game 1 in more of a macro sense. Of course, TY was trying to get into mech, was trying to slow the game down, expand, and take it to the late game. Maru pulled him apart. Here in game 2, TY went for an all-in. Went for a 2-base all-in with double starport Viking production, but he was unable to break the defenses of Maru, or I should say that Maru was able to muster up enough of an army, was able to preserve that Raven, pull the boys, and was able to even catch TY a little bit off guard. Of course, a powerful performance out of Maru, but what I will say is that TY didn't look too bad. I'm happy to say that, because again, I was really concerned about TY's form coming into this series and his form coming into GSL, just because we haven't seen too much of him, and what we have seen from him hasn't been the most impressive of games. So yeah, it's really cool to see him here going toe-to-toe with Maru. Did fall in the end, but it's Maru. I mean, he is the favorite of the group, as that is the first series in the books. And now we're going to be moving on to our second matchup. Of course, there are 4 players in Group A. We are getting ready to dive in.